Welcome in to Duval Daily, presented by GenJag.com. I'm Jordan DeLugo. Thank you so much for tuning in here on Wednesday, February 1st. We've got a Senior Bowl Day 1 recap show where we're just going to highlight some of the standout performances, some of the things that popped off from Day 1 of the Senior Bowl for me. And if you're not familiar with the Senior Bowl, annual college all-star game, get together 3 big practices throughout the week. Those are where most of the scouting goes down. You're seeing guys get one-on-ones. You're seeing them in different situations that you saw them in college. And you're seeing them against a whole bunch of other guys trying to get drafted in the NFL. So I think it's a really fun week. I'm not there this year. Got some stuff going on at home that I was not able to head out to Mobile for a few days and stay out there. But still being able to catch it on NFL Plus, and you can catch recaps NFL Network at night. So I'm really enjoying it, and I thought Day 1 was a lot of fun, even though there's no DJ for the American practice. The second practice of the day was quiet after the first practice was bumping, a lot more energy. So we'll see how they handle that on the second day of practices today, but we'll see. I'm just watching the TV broadcast like everyone else right now. So if there's things I miss, it's probably because the cameras weren't on it at the time. Wasn't on TV. But I do want to run through a bunch of these standout performances, just little things that popped off for different players for me. So we're going to go ahead and do that right now and try to relate it to the Jaguars, of course, because this is a Jaguars show here on Duval Daily. Like to remind you to hit me up on Twitter at Jordan DeLugo, Generation Jaguar at Generation Jag, and hit that like and subscribe button here on YouTube as well. Really appreciate y'all's support. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let's dive into it. I think we would be remiss if we didn't mention Dawand Jones first here, the right tackle out of Ohio State. He's a giant. I mean, he is a literal giant. He is 6'8", 275 pounds with 36 and 5/8 inch arms. His size is unbelievable when you look at it on paper. Then when you see him on the field, it is even more unbelievable. Like, he moves well at that size. He's not just a guy who you envision as just a roadblock, someone that pass rushers and defensive linemen are just going to have to get around. I mean, there's skill. There's movement here for Dawand Jones. So, and you saw it on the practice field. He was dominating, playing at a really high level in Day 1 of Senior Bowl practices. I thought he was the biggest standout, quite literally. Was unbelievable. He looked like he was a man amongst boys. He really did. And so keeping an eye on Dawand Jones the rest of the time, going back watching his Ohio State tape. Why is he so interesting for Jaguars fans? Well, they've got a situation going on with Jawan Taylor at right tackle right now. If Jawan Taylor, who is an unrestricted free agent, walks, are you going to want to add another tackle to this roster some point early in the draft? Probably. Because at the very least, that person can be your swing tackle. They can probably come in and compete for a starting job with Walker Little. And again, that's just if Jawan Taylor ends up walking, getting paid more money elsewhere. But Dawand Jones, definitely somebody to keep in mind there. Jaden Reed, receiver out of Michigan State, came in a little smaller than he's listed at on the Michigan State website. They listed him at 6 foot. When I was watching him, I was like, there's no way this guy's 6 foot. So he did come in just a little over 5'10", under 200 pounds, but he was uncoverable. The pace at which he moved, the quickness in which his feet move, I didn't see anybody keeping up with him. He was a really tremendous route runner. You saw that on tape. You saw that Day 1 of the Senior Bowl. So you talk about Jaden Reed. He's played slot. He's played outside. You wonder if he's going to be limited more to a slot role at the next level. But I think he's a guy that can definitely come in and help you as a returner, as a receiver, and just blowing the brakes off everyone on Day 1 for the national team. It was really impressive. So Jaden Reed, where is he going to go in the draft? Probably going to be day 2, if I had to guess. If he falls to day 3, that's where you should be like, okay, the Jags need to nab this guy ASAP. Keon White, who's a name that has gotten more buzz over the last month or so, out of Georgia Tech, transferred there from Old Dominion. He is a special player, and I've talked about him a little bit on this channel, I believe. He's just got incredible athleticism and explosiveness for his size. He's a guy that played at Old Dominion, I think around 260, 270. Georgia Tech played closer to 290, came in at 280 at the Senior Bowl. And he's a guy I think that's going to be able to align on the edge and align inside as a pass rusher at the next level. He's got some refinement certainly that needs to take place, but pretty much everyone does at this point. He's a rare athlete, a rare specimen at the position. He has the length you're looking for the defensive front. He has the power, and he has rare explosiveness and get off. And he plays with good leverage as well. So Keon White, it's looking more and more like he's going to end up being a first-round pick. Would the Jaguars go after him at 24 overall? I'm not sure. It wouldn't be shocking, right, with Trent Baalke's history of going after these guys with athletic traits and skill sets that he fancies, but maybe they're not viewed as NFL ready or the most advanced prospects, but they're the guys that have the traits. And that's what Trent Baalke's looked for throughout his career as a GM in a lot of different situations. So Keon White, definitely I'd be watching. And it looks like maybe he might not even be available at 24 overall when the Jaguars pick. We'll keep an eye on him. But I would say, outside of the fact that Trayvon Walker did more in college, had more versatility, and the fact that he is just bigger than Keon White, I don't think there's a lot. And when I say bigger, I mean longer. Because Keon White actually weighs a little bit more than Trayvon. But I don't see a whole lot of reason why Trayvon Walker would be way higher on your board than Keon White was, or than Keon White is this year. Just something to keep an eye on, think about a little bit there. We've got a lot to get through here, so I'm going to start speeding it up. Arm length. I thought a couple guys were really impressive in their weigh-ins and their measuring. Will McDonald, he is 6'3" and has 35-inch arms. That's rare. That's impressive, and he's light in the pants, no doubt about it. He's going to have to probably be a 3-4 outside linebacker or a pass rush specialist at the next level. Might even be a pass rush specialist and a 3-4. But as a pass rush specialist, he could be really, really difficult to deal with because he's going to have some natural leverage on most guys that he's going up against, and he's going to have a length advantage on a lot of them. And he is way more explosive and quicker than these guys. So when you combine all that, he could be giving tackles big problems, and he flashed consistently on day one. He was really, really good. Derek Hall out of Auburn didn't flash as much for me. I didn't see him as much, but he's a guy that's 6'2", I believe he measured in at, with 34+ inch arms. So another guy who's going to have the natural leverage advantage and have the length advantage over a lot of tackles at the next level. Another guy to keep an eye on for sure, because that's just stuff you can't teach. You can't teach length and natural leverage, and when you have those two things, you have a pretty damn big advantage. And Derek Hall, he's a guy, even though he's shorter than Will McDonald, he's going to stand up better against the run. He's more stout, more physical, not as flexible and bendy certainly as a Will McDonald, but a guy who I think is going to come in and be a starter for a long time. Probably looks like a day 2 pick for me. Could be a first rounder. We'll see. Keanu Bitten, I didn't see him flash as much as I expected, but I also just didn't see him as much thanks to where the cameras were. But a guy who I think you're gonna want to keep an eye on for sure the rest of the week here. Defensive tackle out of Wisconsin. He's got length, he's got quickness, he's got moves. He's got it all, and I think he can be a nose, a 0-1 tech. I think he can also rush as a 3 tech. I think he's going to give you a lot at the next level. Love Keanu Benton. Keep an eye on him. Receiver who really stood out for me from the national team, Puka Nacua out of Brigham Young. He's 6'2", 206, and was leaving everyone in the dust. His route running, his ability to sink his hips and explode in and out of those breaks, I thought he was fantastic and virtually unguardable. So Puka Nacua, definitely someone to keep an eye on. Had not watched him yet, so I'm going to have to go back and do that certainly. But he was a lot of fun. Trey Tucker out of Louisville. He's a tiny, tiny receiver. He was a lot of fun as well. Looked like he was moving at 1.5 times speed. Just looked faster than everyone else. Other guys that were moving like that speed-wise, I thought Tajay Spears out of Tulane, the running back, he was incredibly explosive and fast. His second gear, no one was catching him. No one was catching him his first gear, quite frankly. But he just was consistently getting to the second level and making guys miss. And he's a home run hitter. He's 200. He's 5'9", 202 pounds, 204 pounds. So he has enough size, I think, to hold up. 5'9", 200 pounds with that type of speed, that's going to be a problem for defenses at the next level. And I don't think he's going to be your starting back, but certainly a 1B or a complement type. He's going to be a lot of fun. Another guy who, and I had watched Tajay Spears, but a guy who I have not watched, out of Bowling Green, Carl Brooks, 6'4", 300 pounds. He had 69 pressures for Bowling Green. Lined up a lot on the edge for Bowling Green, but got over here to the Senior Bowl, was aligning more on the interior, and he couldn't be blocked, quite simply. He was unbelievable. Carl Brooks was yesterday, and so that's another guy to keep an eye on. He just has speed, quickness. He has the hand usage, the technique. He's going to be difficult, and I think he's going to be like a 3 tech at the next level type player, a guy who you can also rush from the edge and base 3-4 probably. As a defensive end, yeah, really impressed by Carl Brooks. Isaiah Foskey, he's a guy who we've talked about, we've watched. Probably an early day 2 grade for me because I don't think he has the pass rush arsenal, the pass rush plan, but he does have everything else. He has the physicality. He does have a long arm he can get you with. He can rush through you when that doesn't work. He'll try to get his hands up. When he's playing run defense, he's constantly a menace. And he's a guy that just has made plays throughout his career. And he did that in teamwork at the Senior Bowl, day 1. Forced fumble, poking the ball out. That's something he did a ton at Notre Dame. Whether he's impacting the quarterback, impacting the ball carrier, making special teams plays, Isaiah Foskey's the type of player you want on your football team. Darnell Wright, he came in with really good length. I was impressed by that. The right tackle out of Tennessee who just looks like that prototypical right tackle. Wasn't the most impressive day from him. I thought he had some instances where he didn't quite look as athletic as the guy he was going up against, where he overset to the outside, got exposed on the inside. But I expect Darnell Wright to rebound and have a solid week. And it wasn't a horrible day by any stretch for him, but just wasn't quite as dominant as I thought maybe he could look in this setting. Luke Musgrave, I've talked about him a lot already. He was clearly the most talented tight end on the practice field, in my opinion. His movements are just unreal. He's going to run a 4.4 or 4.5 at 6'6", 250. Special talent, in my opinion. I know people want to talk about only having 11 catches. Go watch those 11 catches in 2022 in 2 games before he got injured. He looks fully healthy now, and so this is a guy I'm really excited about. Another 1.5 speed type of guy, Tank Dell, who I've talked about on here a little bit, out of Houston, the wide receiver. He's another tiny, tiny football player, but was uncoverable. A lot of these big, long corners could not lay a hand on him, could not keep up with him at all. Rashee Rice did not stand out as much. He was able to get open a few times and was overshot by quarterbacks, which was disappointing certainly, but he's going to want to get out there. And this is a SMU wide receiver who could be a potential borderline first round pick. I think he's probably going to be a second round pick, but he's really twitchy and explosive in his movements, the way he attacks the ball. He's a lot of fun to watch. I expect him to have a bigger day 2 and 3 here. Xavier Hutchinson, another player I'm a huge fan of, a local kid out of Jacksonville, Bartram Trail High School. He's 6 foot, almost 6'2", 200 pounds. Has all the size and stuff you're looking for as a starting receiver. He is so smooth. I think he's pro ready. He manipulates and uses leverage so well too. Like he gets good leaning into the guy and then exploding off in the other direction. He does a lot of that stuff, and I just think he's ready to be a pro. He was probably ready to be a pro in 2022, quite honestly. Xavier Hutchinson out of Iowa State by way of Jacksonville, Florida. Resjon Wright out of Oklahoma State. He has a terrific punch and press. A super physical guy with length, so he's someone who popped off to me a little bit. All these cornerbacks you're talking about, the Jaguars, I think they need not only a nickel corner, I think they also need a just depth at outside corner after Darius Williams and Tyson Campbell. And so when you're talking about these corners, you could be looking at some of them in that regard. Although I think the Jaguars, because they want to run man, you're going to want guys that have some quickness to their feet that can mirror movements a little bit more. I'm not sure there's a ton of those guys at the Senior Bowl in this cornerback class to play outside and do that, but Resjon Wright potentially. Julius Brents out of Kansas State, one of the longest corners in this class, 6'3", 200 pounds, really long arms. He just covers space, and he has, for his size, he has, in my opinion, pretty good movement abilities. You talk about guys like Tariq Woolen and McCollum last year. I don't know that. I should say I do know. Brents does not have the athleticism that Tariq Woolen brings to the field. But if you're trying to get him in a system, a zone system where he just needs to take up space and create issues in those passing lanes, I think Brents is certainly a guy to keep an eye on. Somebody who I wasn't very, very well aware of, Princeton wide receiver Andre Iosivas, I hope is how you say his last name. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but he's 6'2", he's 200 plus pounds, and he was running past everyone. He was catching everything thrown his way. You've seen some comparisons to Christian Watson from last year. I'll say this, I know that he has a more advanced skill set at the catch point than Christian Watson did coming in. So you like that out of Andre Iosivas, but this is someone I'm definitely going to have eyes on and dive deeper into, because I think that he has a chance to be an impact starting receiver at the next level with his combination of size, speed, and ball skills. Dontavian Wicks is another one, wide receiver out of Virginia, who I think needed a change of scenery. Virginia was a bit of a mess on the offensive side of the ball in 2022, had a really impressive 2021 season, came out to the Senior Bowl, and I thought just his movements were really impressive. He's quick, he's explosive, he has size. I'm excited to see what Dontavian Wicks can continue to do. I was really high on him in summer scouting, had a 2 on him. Late 2, early 3 in summer scouting. Had a rough year in 2023. I think he's starting to get back to showing why so many people were so excited about him prior to this past season. Excuse me. Chris Smith, the safety out of Georgia. Such good feet and instincts. I've got a borderline first, second round grade on him. He's not huge, but really, really good feet, really good instincts, always in the right place at the right time, ready to make a play on the football, and you saw that in this one. Kenny McIntosh, another Georgia prospect, running back who I love. I think he's going to be a really impressive kind of change of pace back who can line up outside as a receiver, line up in the slot, catch the ball out of the backfield, come in and block. He suffered some cramps. It looked scary, like a leg injury at first, but it was just cramps, so you're really thankful for that. I have Will McDonald in my notes twice here. It's just wild how long and athletic he is, how flexible and bendy he is. So he's going to be someone, I really do think it's possible he could go in the first round, even at 230 whatever pounds he is. He's light in the pants, but he's got everything else you're looking for. And he wasn't super refined at Iowa State, but he was also playing out of position. And so you get him lined up more outside of the tackle, give him a little bit of room to get going, and he really was impossible to block for these tackles. Eric Gray's accelerator continued to pop, the running back out of Oklahoma. You see that on tape. He's just got really good quickness and acceleration in his game. But on a pass out of the backfield, late in practice, they kind of do this. They get some one-on-ones going to kind of end the practice, and it's kind of like statements for the offense and defense. It's kind of like who's going to win the day. Marte Mapu helped his defense have a really impressive showing there late. Out of Sacramento, he popped in one-on-one coverage, and this is a guy who is a safety / linebacker. I think he's got really impressive traits. He's not a guy who I had eyes on prior, but he was able to break up a pass in primary coverage, one-on-one coverage versus Eric Gray out of the backfield. I thought that was impressive. Just his hips, his balance, and his quickness. So Marte Mapu's a guy we're going to keep an eye on for sure, see where he seems to make more sense, but I would be surprised if he's not playing some safety at the next level. We'll see how it plays out. Maybe a Quincy Williams type who played safety in college, maybe play linebacker at the next level. Michael Wilson out of Stanford, he dealt with some injuries throughout his career, but he looks rocked up, like 6'2", 200 plus, really explosive, twitchy movements, was given all the DBs fits and was getting open and catching the football. So another guy to keep an eye on who might not have as much interest in him because of the injuries. Tyreek Stevenson, cornerback out of Miami, another corner. Again, Jaguars are probably going to be looking for corners in this class. He's 6 foot, 200 plus pounds, has good length. He's a physical risk taker, but he has really nice feet to overcome maybe some of the risks that he takes, and he has length and size, obviously. I'm a fan of Tyreek Stevenson. I have a 2 on him right now. I think if the Jaguars are interested in probably in trying to find someone who maybe can start outside on day 2 down the road, I think Tyreek Stevenson could be that guy for you. Nick Saldiveri, interior offensive lineman out of ODU, looked really good. Old Dominion, held up well in a setting that has more talent than what he's been used to going up against. And then McClendon Curtis, he's the final guy I have here to talk about. The Jaguars, they could be in the market for a tackle. They could be in the market for a guard, depending on how different things shake out. McClendon Curtis has 35-inch arms. He's 6'5" and 331 pounds, and he acquitted himself well playing some interior offensive lineman at Senior Bowl day 1. I'm really impressed with him. Dominated at Tennessee Chattanooga, had a good first day of Senior Bowl, has these incredible measurables that you're looking at. Again, 35-inch arms and 6'5" and 331. Really, really like that frame, that size from McClendon Curtis. And so going to continue to keep eyes on him. Day 2 of the Senior Bowl. Later today, you'll have practices again from the American team and the national team. I'll be keeping an eye on it, and I will be back here tomorrow to talk more about some of the prospects that are standing out for the Jaguars, for the Jaguars in this 2023 Senior Bowl. But I really appreciate y'all tuning in. Let me know in the comment section below which prospects you're excited about watching, who popped for you on day 1. What are you looking forward to throughout the rest of the week? You can also hit me up on Twitter at Jordan DeLugo and chop it up with me about some of these Senior Bowl guys. Again, appreciate y'all for tuning in. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, and go Jags.